I hate to say this and I hope I don't sound ridiculous, but we are in the presence of demonry. We are in the presence of demonic behavior. We are in the presence of some witchcraft. Ghouls, demons, and ghouls again. I think that we need to start allowing people to get arrested, thrown into maximum security prisons, and turn a blind eye when they get shanked in the locker room. We need to start putting people on spaceships and blasting their asses to Jupiter. There are people who are living among us that are quite frankly supervillains that need to be taken care of. And unfortunately, we do not have vigilantes roaming the streets. There isn't a Spider-Man, there isn't a Batman that's going to save us, so we have to save ourselves. Consider this video to be a citizen's arrest. Not that it's needed, because the person in question has already been arrested, but we'll get to that in a second. I was actually in the middle of making a completely different video when I opened up twitter.com, which, you know, that's how all great things start. So there's an author, her name is Tori Woods. This is her pen name, that's not her real name. But there is a woman with the pen name Tori Woods who wrote a book called Daddy's Little Toy. On this channel, we are no stranger to absolutely awful literature. I read the Mafia romance book by Jamila Jasper. We have read Torn by Carrie Ann Cole. That was actually probably around a year ago at this point. We didn't read this other book, but we did talk about this dark romance book where somebody was basically romanticizing a real life serial killer. So we've had a lot of interesting discussions, and this one is no different. However, for some reason, out of all of the books that we have talked about thus far, this one has given me the most anguish. I have to take a shit. My stomach hurts. That's how bad this book is. Now, here's the thing. I didn't read this book because it has been pulled from the shelves. They weren't actually on physical shelves. I think it was only available on Amazon. The point is that the book has been pulled. Investigations have started. Arrests have been made. Let's talk about the book in question. What did Tori Woods write that was so awful? Thank every god that you believe in that I did not get my hands on this book before it got pulled. Because trust and believe, I would have gotten graphic if I had to, because I'm a full believer that we shouldn't flinch from stuff like this. If you suppress the severity of things in order for it to be more palatable for people, they're not going to fully understand the extent. They're not fully going to grasp how truly awful this is. I personally would have treated this like the Jamila Jasper book and read verbatim quotes before we read the synopsis. Basically, if you're wondering what the plot of this book is, it's exactly the same plot of Torn by Carrie Ann Cole, the video I made last year. Barely legal teenage girl falls for her father's best friend, who is very, very, very much older than she is. Let's read the synopsis. Lucy. I can't help myself when I'm around him. I wet my pants in excitement. At night, I use my unicorn stuffy's horn on myself. All I think about while I'm being naughty is my dad's best friend and how I wish he could be my daddy. I'm the freak of the family. My dad is disappointed in me. My mom dismisses me. And my sister despises me. I'm delusional if I think Arthur would ever want to play with me. Arthur, my juicy Lucy. She's finally 18. I've wanted her longer than I can ever legally admit. She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be my perfect little toy. My precious little unicorn, and I'm going to be her daddy. When I see her playing dress-ups, I forget about the fact that she's my best friend's barely legal daughter, or that her mom hasn't protected and cherished her like she should. All I know is that she's meant to be my baby girl. There's a lot of things wrong with this. For starters, the fact that I'm saying mum instead of mom. Like, where's my American flag? Ugh, I rebuke. So that's a synopsis. Right. Do you need me to tell you what's wrong with that synopsis? Do you need me? Can we talk about the fact that this man has been plotting on this girl since she was apparently 3 years old? Here's a review of somebody who did read this book, or 23% of the book, because they ended up DNFing it. DNF means did not finish. For those of you who watch these videos and you're like, I'm not in the book talk space, I don't know what you're talking about. Shout out to Nini. They got an arc. They said, I had to DNF. I think 23% was a good amount for me to review. This book has one problem. It should be on the trigger warnings. It has pedophilia. The male main character started noticing the female character when she was 3. I'm sorry, but 3 years old? Wanting a woman as sweet as my friend's toddler daughter, Lucy, who was 3 at the time. I made the mistake of peeking between... Oh my god. Can I read this? I have to. I made the mistake of peeking between her legs only to find dark curls hiding what I'm sure was and still is the most perfect, untouched, pretty little pink pussy. puffy. And while I'm impartial to a little pubic hair, I generally prefer my baby girls bare. It makes the little feel more authentic. Little girls don't have hair on their private parts. I can't remember how old she was here, but she was still a child. So yeah, no, this is pedophilia. I can't. They have a 29-year old age. This is a typo. I don't know if it's a 29-year age gap or if the person is 29 years old. And they said that this would be okay if he didn't want her since she was 3. I wanted to continue, but I couldn't stop thinking about this. Thank you for those direct quotes that are 23% at least through the book, mind you. I don't. What do you want from me here? Do you want me to sit here and tell you in a very eloquent manner, guys, grooming is not okay? Preying on people when they're 3 years old and finding attraction to a 3-year-old, not okay. You don't need me to tell you that, do you? Now, part of me is kind of upset that I was not able to read this book, which sounds insane because it's like, girl, you wanted to read that? I didn't want to read it because I was interested in it. I mean, I am interested in it, but not in the ways that you're thinking. I wanted to do it for educational purposes, right? I like coming into these videos knowing exactly what happened and giving you the full rundown. I was going to give you all the nitty-gritty details. I really, really was. I would have if I could, but I can't because it's gone. Obviously, there are people who are defending this book because of course there are. There's always the few, the proud and the emotional. A lot of people, their biggest argument is that it's just fiction. There are people who are comparing this to books about murder. My thing is that I think that if a book is romanticizing something, then that's when we have to put a pause on it. And in regards to murder in fiction, I think there's a difference when there is a murderer in some sort of fictional story. The victim is also fictional. I think it gets a little bit iffy when the story is about a murder that has actually happened in real life and is sort of romanticizing the murderer in question or kind of downplaying the whole thing or making a mockery in some form or fashion. Now, some people could argue that the victim, the barely legal teenage girl, the victim is also fictional, therefore they should not. This is a hard conversation to have because I understand why people are having this conversation and I understand where people are coming from. I don't want to say I'm neutral, but that's just the part of me that likes to know both sides. Even though I do have a very clear opinion, I also am open and willing to hear out the other side, even if I know for certain that I'm against them. In this situation, when people talk about how the victim, the 18-year-old girl in the story, is fictional, therefore why should we care? My thing is that this is a taboo romance. The reason why people are consuming this is because they came for the romance aspects of it. They came for the love story aspects of it. When the foundation of the relationship is a grown-ass man pining over a 3-year-old girl, that's not a good precedent to set. That's not something that we need to normalize. With murder, even if we are in the headspace of the murderer in question, everybody knows murder not okay. I think that's a really cut and dry law that everybody has accepted over time. There are people out in the world who are actively grooming people and getting away with it. It is something that actually deeply affects and traumatizes people, and they're getting away with that. To have the audacity to romanticize this type of relationship, unacceptable. Hi, I would like to add that in some cases murder is not forgiven, but it's justified, right? Like self-defense, people are justified. If a court of law deems them justified, then they're justified for the crime. And there's also people who actually go out of their way to kill bad people, right? Like pedophiles. Not that they're getting away with the crime itself. I'm just saying the public usually tilts in their favor. There are sometimes justifications for murder, but there's never a justification for grooming, like ever. People aren't thinking that deeply about this, I fear. You can also compare this to Lolita. Lolita is the go-to book when we're having conversations like this. People should know, if they're reading the book correctly, that you're not supposed to agree with Humbert. I think that's how you say his name. You're not supposed to agree with him. He's obviously the bad guy. I also read another book called Tampa by Alyssa Nutting. The main reason why I kind of wanted to read this book was to kind of compare it to Tampa by Alyssa Nutting, because Tampa is about a 26-year-old woman who intentionally becomes a middle school teacher to seduce her 12, 13, 14-year-old students. It's truly awful and graphic. I cannot in good faith recommend that book to anybody. I think I've talked about this in a video before, but I'll say it again. It's a tough read. I actually tweeted about it recently because it was going viral on Twitter. Somebody was talking about Tampa and they said they read this book. It was a tough read. The female narrator is monstrous and doesn't use flowery language. Flowery language, or justify her predation by presenting her victims as mature. I only recommend it to people who are fine with reading abhorrent narrators. And then I said, the book was vile, but definitely an interesting way to dive into the mind of a female predator. Probably the only book I've read that gave me intense cognitive dissonance. And then somebody asked me, random person, I don't know who this is, they asked me, what do you mean by cognitive dissonance? And I said, it's horrifically graphic, to the point that I felt like I was going to be put on a watch list, but I was morbidly curious about the mind of a female predator. I read this back in September and I still can't figure out how I feel about it because my emotions are so complex. Basically, my brain was conflicted about liking certain aspects of the book while simultaneously being sick to my stomach about the whole thing. I'm bringing up these books because these are books that are talking about the same things: child sexual assault, grooming, and the predators in question are not being praised for what they're doing. Again, I've never read Lolita. It's on my shelf. I actually bought it recently. With Tampa specifically, the female narrator, I don't remember her name, nor do I care. She knows that she is fucked up and she doesn't care. She just feeds into it. And it's very blatantly obvious that we're not supposed to be rooting for her at all. Are you crazy? It's blatantly obvious that the relationships that she's having with her students not okay at all. Vile, disgusting. I think the reason why it's so graphic is to really hammer home the fact that this is not something that we should be accepting. This is something that, by the way, this is something that's happening. Female predators like that exist. And a lot of the times when you see a headline of a teacher being arrested, a female teacher being arrested for doing something inappropriate with her underage students, a lot of people like to trivialize and actually even congratulate the victims in question because they managed to bag an older woman. Oh my God. That's not what this video is about. I'm sorry. The point is that these books are not romanticizing these types of relationships, but this Tori Woods book is. The existence of this book is to feed into that taboo romance aspect of it. It's supposed to glamorize it. That's the point. Though I will say that Humbert is a little more delusional with his depictions of what happened in the book. Because with Tampa, it's just very blatant, it's very cold. The female predator, she is very aware of what she's doing, and she's very aware that what she is doing is awful, and she doesn't care. Humbert, he genuinely thinks that he is totally justified and it's totally acceptable to be attracted to like that 11-12-year-old girl. A lot of people do mischaracterize Lolita, whereas Tampa is just, it's so gross that it's obviously not condoned. I suppose the existence of Tampa in itself, some people could argue that that is condoning what's going on in the book. I personally don't think so. I think the book is just too I can't possibly see how anybody could misinterpret what's going on in there. But with Lolita, there's a little bit of a disconnect there because critical thinking is a lost art form, and some people actually think that the story is being condoned. Let's get into the fact that she has been arrested. So I said at the very beginning, at least I think I did, Tori Woods is not her real name. That is her pen name. The author, her name is actually Lauren Tesselin Mastroza. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. She has been arrested. That's kind of where this gets a little interesting because I was a little worried at first when I first heard about this. I heard about this book like a couple days ago. When I first heard about this book, I was a little hesitant about making a video about it because I kind of wanted to, but then again, based off of the material, based off of the synopsis of the book, it pretty much sounded like Torn by Carrie and Cole. Making the same video a whole year later seems a bit like a cop-out. Though I will say, Carrie and Cole, I was really harsh. I could have been harsher. Actually, I could have been a lot harsher. I was not very nice to Carrie and Cole in my video. So I will say this. At least Carrie and Cole made it abundantly clear that the father's best friend, he didn't start becoming attracted to her until she started becoming an adult, 17, 18. Which is not great. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. And I think I even said in the video that there were some instances where he may have been thinking about her for a little longer than that, even before she became an adult. I did manage to find one quote where it was like he implied or hinted that he may have been attracted to this 18-year-old girl before she was 18. But it was never explicitly said. Unlike Daddy's Little Toy, literally in the synopsis, he admits that he's been attracted to her since she was 3. Carrie and Cole, at least you have that going for you, which is the bar. I can't even say the bar's in hell, because I think hell is, it's a sauna. It's a peaceful sauna in comparison to the depths of low that the bar is currently at. I will give you that and only that. I have some reading for you. Article came out yesterday by the time I'm recording this. It's a very last minute video. Author facing child abuse material charges, pedophilia claims, admits criticism over book titled Daddy's Little Toy report. Erotic fiction author Lauren Tesselin Mastrosa, who writes under the name Tori Woods, is set to appear in court later this month. It's been reported. So there's the cover. I think I put the cover up on the screen, but there's the cover again. An Australian author is facing child abuse material charges amid criticism over her book Daddy's Little Toy, it's been reported. On Friday, March 21st at approximately 12:30 p.m. local time, officers attached to Riverstone Police Area Command commenced investigations following reports of a fictional novel containing child abuse material. Per news.com and the Daily Telegraph Australia, erotic fiction author Lauren Tesselin Mastrosa, who writes under the name Tori Woods, is the one facing charges. Per the Daily Telegraph, police received multiple complaints. Her latest book contains graphic fictional child abuse material. NSW police says in a statement obtained by People that detectives attended a home on Penn Street, Quakers Hill, and arrested a 33-year-old woman before she was taken to Riverstone Police Station while responding to a request for an additional information on the alleged reports about Tesselin Mastrosa. At the home, police executed a search warrant, seizing several hard copies of the novel to be forensically examined, police added. The woman was charged with possessing child abuse material, disseminating child abuse material, and producing child abuse material. She was granted conditional bail to appear before Blacktown local court on Monday, 31st March 2025. The statement concluded. Tesselin Mastrosa appears to have deactivated her Instagram account, and websites such as Amazon and Goodreads seem to have removed the book. Per news.com, the release focuses on the relationship between an 18-year-old and her father's friend, who reportedly desired the teen since she was 3 years old. The book cover has the title written in children's building block style. The outlet stated that Tesselin Mastrosa addressed the criticism on her Instagram before reportedly taking it down on her social media accounts. We do have the full statement. Let's not read anything out of context here. Hi everyone. I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. DLT is definitely not promoting or inciting anything ever to do with CSA or pedophilia. What is being said is grossly disturbing and breaks my heart as well as makes me sick. DLT is fictional and meant to represent the DDLG world. I understand where I went wrong, and that is why I removed it from Amazon this morning. What happened between these characters, yes, started at a young age. No intercourse happened while she was young. Yes, there were thoughts, and I can see how that is frowned upon. Nothing happened like that until she was of age. I know nothing that I say is going to change or fix what I've written. There are, however, 3 innocent people who have been caught in the crossfire, and it needs to stop. Georgia, Misha, and Ashley, along with their businesses. Pixel and Quill Studio, cover designer, Mish Taylor, PA, graphics, and AVA book editing editor. These ladies were under no impression that I was Lauren Ashley writing as Tori Woods. I reached out to these ladies to work with them as Tori and only as Tori. Georgia was my PA for Lauren Ashley and had only ever read half of my very first book and decided it wasn't for her. This is why she became my PA, because she was honest. She has raised concerns with me about people mentioning her ARC form. This was copied from a template, hence why they all look the same. Misha Taylor has read a couple of my books, but not this one in particular. Neither of them knew the full extent of what was in the book. Ashley edited the book. She had asked me some questions, and in my replies I wasn't entirely truthful. She did not read over my final manuscript, which became the published, now unpublished version. I am so sorry that I wasn't who I said I was, and I'm sorry for the content in my book, and I'm even more sorry that this was missed as a trigger warning. I will be removing myself from the book community. If I ever get back to writing, I will not hide who it is, and I will make sure the people I work with know the full content of my books. However, I don't see that happening. I'm so sorry. Georgia Stove, who designed the book's cover, said she had cut ties with Tori Woods effective immediately, insisting she wasn't aware of what was in the book when she was working on the art, per the publication. Tesselin Mastrosa was a marketing executive at the Christian organization Baptist Care, but has since been removed from the role. Baptist Care and Blacktown local court didn't immediately respond when contacted by People for comment. So that's all we know as of right now. Some people were concerned about the fact that she's been arrested, mostly because if writing fiction that is not necessarily accepted within the public is grounds for being arrested, then what else will people be arrested for? What other, like, who else is going to get arrested for the books that they wrote? And I understand why people are starting to think that. This does seem like an extreme thing to do, because if we're going to arrest her, let's arrest Carrie and Cole while we're at it. I don't know if this is true, so take this with a line of coke. Some people have theorized that the reason why she was able to be arrested and charged with possessing child abuse material is because she had to use that kind of material to research material for her book. I don't know if that's true. I haven't read the book, so I don't know. That's what people are saying. I honestly think that the possession of child abuse material is just the existence of the book. She's trying to normalize something that is a crime. If you are curious, the dedication for the book, allegedly, I personally haven't read it. I haven't seen it, but somebody said that her dedication was, I will never look at my kids the same after writing this book. That was kind of the final nail on the coffin for me personally. You have your own very young kids and you still felt the need to sexualize a relationship between a very young girl and an older man, to the point where he was attracted to her when she was he was attracted to her when she was 3 years old. I don't think I kind of glossed over that. We need to circle the wagons. He was attracted to her when she was 3 years old. How mentally inept do you have to be as a human being to write that down and think, yes, that is good? That's some good material right there. I get it's supposed to be taboo. I get it's supposed to be a dark romance. That's not what the genre is about. As somebody who actually does not give a one shits, two shits, red shits, blue shits about taboo or dark romance, I know for a fact that the people who are consuming those books, they're not going to look at that book and think, yes, this is good. This is some good stuff right there. It gives a bad name to the whole subgenre. And that's what makes me feel bad about the dark romance girls. I do feel bad for you guys sometimes, because that's not fair. Now people are going to look at this book, they're going to point their finger, daddy's little toy, as an excuse for why dark romance shouldn't exist. And I am a full believer that just because you don't like a genre does not mean that it shouldn't exist, right? I think we should all coexist in the space responsibly. Most of the time I don't really have an issue with dark romance. If that is what you're into, that is what you're into. But come on. I just want to say as a conclusion for this video that I don't condone censorship. I think that it is important to explore themes like this. I don't think the existence... Oh, girl, play that BoJack Horseman, please. Stop pissing me off. I think that exploring darker themes like this, these types of stories, are important. Another book I should mention that I have read is My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. I read My Dark Vanessa. That is about a girl, she's 16, I'm pretty sure, but she's in high school. She is underage. She is a minor, and she gets in a physical relationship with her English teacher, who is in his 40s, I think. I don't fully remember. The point is that this is a grown man having a relationship with a 16-year-old girl. And that book, again, it doesn't condone the relationship. I believe that My Dark Vanessa is a good book, and it should exist because that is a book that does explore the victim's mindset. That book is really good at painting the effects that grooming has on somebody. It's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. And I'm not saying that we should never ever talk about stories like this, but it's about how you talk about it. It's about what you do with the material. It's about how you engage with the material. That is the most important thing that people don't seem to fully understand, and they don't understand the nuances of the conversation, and they refuse to sit down and think for longer than 2 seconds about this because they just see taboo romance. They see a taboo relationship and they assume, oh, well, we can't talk about anything. Well, let's just ban murder. Let's just ban this and that. And no, that's not what we're saying. If you're going to sit here and sexualize a relationship like this and think that we're going to be on your side, what kind of reactions were you expecting from this book? You have to understand why the book was written. You have to understand what the purpose of the book is, what the author is trying to say. Authors aren't just saying things. Words matter. Things matter. Yes, it's that deep. Oh, I need to put that on a t-shirt. A lot of people love to come after me and say, oh, it's not that deep. It's never that deep. Da-da-da-da. It is always that deep. The things you say actually matter. The way you act matters. It all matters. We need to send a nuke to this woman's house. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Because she's not at her house. And if she is at her house, she probably has an ankle monitor on. Confiscate her MacBook, confiscate her Lenovo, confiscate her HP tablet, confiscate her HP laptop. Just honestly, actually just yank away her router, put her in a room with no windows, give her food 3 times a day, water occasionally. I think that's a good start. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. was kind of free balling this one a little bit. This was an emergency video. Like, subscribe, do whatever you want. I don't really care. All the links to my social media are down in the description. I have a book club on Fable. We are still reading The Queen's Gambit. We are picking out our next book currently. It's looking like we're gonna read The Secret History by Donna Tartt, though The Hunger Games is close second. Sorry, Normal People by Sally Rooney. You're not making the cut. I've read all of these books already, so I really don't care. I don't care what we read, but it's all good. Please join my book club. It's so fun. We're having so much fun. Bye.